In the busy streets of Johannesburg, there lived a family that looked perfect from the outside. A father named Richard, a stepmother named Vanessa, and their daughter, Chloe. But inside that same house lived another child nobody truly cared about, a 12-year-old boy named Jayden. Every morning before sunrise, Jayden woke up before everyone else. He scrubbed dirty floors with freezing water while the rest of the family still slept peacefully upstairs. Meanwhile, plates clinking, Chloe sat comfortably at the dining table eating pancakes, eggs, bacon, and fresh juice. Vanessa smiled warmly at her daughter. "Oh, sweetheart, eat slowly."
But Jayden, he stood quietly near the kitchen, holding a mop with tired eyes and an empty stomach. "Jayden," Vanessa snapped. "Yes, ma'am." "The floor won't clean itself. Move faster." "Yes, ma'am." Jayden swallowed hard. "I'm hungry too. Can I eat breakfast with Chloe?" Vanessa rolled her eyes. "That stale bread is enough for you. Be grateful." Jayden forced a tiny smile. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Finish cleaning first." At school time, Chloe happily adjusted her expensive backpack while Jayden carried it for her. "Walk faster," Chloe complained. "You're so slow." "Yes, Chloe." As they arrived at the massive school building, Jayden stopped for a second. Soft, hopeful music. Students laughed together. Teachers greeted children warmly. Jayden stared at the classrooms with shining eyes. "One day," he whispered softly, "one day I'll study here too."
Chloe burst into laughter. "You? In this school? That's funny." Jayden stayed quiet. Later that afternoon, Chloe was carelessly tossing a ball inside the living room. "Catch it! Catch it!" Suddenly, crash! The expensive crystal sculpture smashed into pieces. Chloe's face turned pale. Oh no. Footsteps thundered downstairs. Fast footsteps. Vanessa stormed into the room. "What happened?" Before Jayden could even speak, "It was Jayden!" Chloe shouted quickly. "He broke it!" Jayden froze in shock. "What? No! I wasn't even here!" Vanessa's face twisted with anger. "You liar! I swear!" Slap! Sharp slap. Jayden stumbled backward, holding his cheek. "How dare you destroy things in this house?" "I didn't do it."
Richard walked downstairs, adjusting his tie. "What's going on now?" Vanessa pointed angrily. "Your son broke the sculpture and scared Chloe." Richard glared coldly at Jayden. "I knew you would become trouble one day." Tears filled Jayden's eyes. "Dad, please, I didn't do it." "Enough!" Richard shouted. Vanessa pointed toward the door. "Pack your trash and leave this house right now." Jayden's breathing became shaky, voice trembling. "Please, I have nowhere to go." Richard looked away. "Leave." That night, heavy rain. Jayden sat outside alone in the freezing cold, hugging himself tightly. Cars rushed past him. Nobody stopped. Nobody cared. His stomach growled loudly. He slowly wiped tears from his face. "I just want someone who actually wants me." The next morning, Jayden wandered through the streets, weak and exhausted, until he saw a small roadside cafe. A middle-aged man arranged chairs outside. "Sir?" Jayden said nervously. "Do you need help?" The man looked at him carefully. "How old are you, boy?" 12. "And your parents?" Jayden looked down silently. I don't have a home anymore. The man sighed deeply. Well, I can't pay much, but if you clean tables and wash dishes, I'll give you food. Jayden's eyes widened instantly. Really? Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. From that day forward, Jayden worked harder than anyone in the cafe. Every when his hands hurt, even when he was exhausted, he never complained. One evening, a wealthy couple entered the cafe. Daniel and Grace Morgan. Grace quietly watched Jayden cleaning tables non-stop. Daniel, she whispered softly, look at that boy. Daniel nodded slowly. He's working harder than most adults. After dinner, Daniel accidentally left his wallet behind. Jayden immediately grabbed it and ran outside. Sir, wait!
Daniel turned around, surprised. You forgot your wallet. Daniel checked it quickly. Everything was still inside. He looked shocked. You could have taken this money. Jayden shook his head immediately. My mother used to say, honesty is worth more than money. Grace suddenly became emotional. What's your name? Jayden. And where do you live? Jayden hesitated. Sometimes behind the cafe, sometimes near the market. Grace covered her mouth sadly. Oh my God. That night, inside their car. Daniel, Grace whispered. We can't leave that child there. Daniel nodded quietly. I know. The next day they returned. Grace knelt beside Jayden. Jayden, would you like to come home with us? Jayden blinked repeatedly in disbelief. What? We want to adopt you, Daniel said gently. Jayden looked completely frozen. Why me?
Grace smiled with tears in her eyes. Because you deserve love. Jayden immediately broke down crying. No one's ever said that to me before. Daniel hugged him tightly. Well, get used to it, son. The boy, for the first time in his life, felt wanted. The couple brought him home to Cape Town. Jayden stepped inside carefully. Whoa. This place is huge. Grace laughed warmly. And it's your home too now. She opened a bedroom door. Jayden froze. A clean bed. Warm lights. Fresh clothes. Books. Toys. This room belongs to you, Grace smiled. Jayden touched the blanket carefully. I've never had my own room before. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. You'll never sleep outside again. That night, Jayden lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling in disbelief. He slowly pulled the blanket close. And for the first time in years, he slept peacefully. The next morning, Jayden walked downstairs and froze again. A massive breakfast covered the table. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, juice, toast. All this is for me too? Grace laughed softly. Of course.
Jayden grabbed pancakes excitedly.
This is so good! Daniel burst into laughter. Slow down before you choke. Jayden laughed for the first time in years. And little by little, the broken little boy began to heal. Years passed. Jayden studied harder than anyone else. Late nights, no excuses, no complaints. And one day, first position in the entire graduating class. Drumroll pause. Jayden Morgan. Loud applause. Grace screamed proudly. That's my son. Daniel wiped tears proudly. Years later, the homeless boy became the CEO of one of the biggest technology companies in South Africa. Meanwhile, Richard and Vanessa lost almost everything. The house became old and broken. Vanessa became seriously ill, and Chloe stopped visiting them completely. One day, Richard received a phone call offering him a chauffeur job at Morgan Technologies. The next morning, Richard entered the massive company building nervously. Then suddenly, he froze.
Sitting behind the office desk was Jayden. Older, powerful, successful. Richard's lips trembled. Jayden? Jayden slowly stood up. You finally recognize me. Richard immediately burst into tears. My son! I'm sorry! Jayden looked at him silently for a long moment. The night you threw me out, I slept on the streets in the cold. I was only 12. Richard lowered his head in shame. But someone else showed me kindness, Jayden continued softly. And because of them, I survived. Later, Jayden bought Richard and Vanessa a small, comfortable home and paid for Vanessa's medical treatment. Vanessa cried uncontrollably. Why are you helping us after everything we did to you? Jayden smiled gently. Because someone once helped me when I had nothing. And so I promised myself